Reform MP Sarah Pochin went on an insane racist rant on Talk TV, complaining that she sees black and Asian people on TV.
It drives me mad when I see adverts full of black people, full of Asian people, full of, people that basically are
What's
anything
wrong
other
with that,
than
Sarah?
white.
What's wrong with that?
Well, it doesn't reflect our society, and I feel that your average white person, average white family is like I agree with you, Stuart, not represented anymore
There
in
are lots of
TV
white people on
advertising.
television, Sarah, are there not? There are lots of white people, there are lots of white men, there are lots of white women.
Now, Poacher did take to Twitter to apologise. It's quite a long tweet. My comments on Talk TV phone-in earlier today were phrased poorly, and I unreservedly apologise for any offence caused, which was not my intention. The point I was making is that many British TV adverts have gone DEI mad. God, what is this DEI stuff? This is the UK, not America. And are now unrepresentative of British society as a whole. This is not an attack on any group, but an observation about balance and fairness in how our country is portrayed on screen. A study commissioned by Channel 4 as part of its Mirror on the Industry project found that black people were featured in more than half of adverts in 2022, up sharply from 37% in 2020 following the Black Lives Matter movement. By contrast, black people make up around 4% of the population in England and Wales, according to the 2021 consensus. Representation in advertising should reflect the diversity of modern Britain, but it should also be proportionate and inclusive of everyone. My comments were made in that context, and I stand by the principle that equality should mean fairness for all. Again, this obsession with DEI, it's so weird, okay? Even I think in America, most people might not even know what it is. If they do, they don't really care. In this country, no one knows what the hell DEI is. It's a stupid American import. But look, even if you wanted to have a conversation on representation, right? What she said in the clip was, it made her mad seeing people of colour. I'm mad that there's black people. God, get over it. She didn't say, look, there may be, an over-representation of minorities on TV, right? 4% of the country are black, but, over half of TV apps have got black person in it, right? Why didn't she say that and just that? No, because this wasn't about having a conversation. Again, you heard it yourself. She was just crying about non-white faces. Now, some have gone as far to say that anti-white racism is a big problem in this country. Rupert Lowe, of course, says anti-white racism is rife in 2025 Britain, and we shouldn't be afraid to fight it. By the way, if you use Twitter, I don't know how many of you use Twitter, right? If you go through Lowe's timeline, it's so funny. He's just a massive Karen. He has so much time on his hands. And look, if you're moaning about this, you're incredibly privileged, right? Now, many people have been pulling up this video as an example, and it's Anasawa apparently being racist against white people.
Every chief executive of every council and every government department, white. Every director of a department in Scotland, white. Every principal of a college or university in Scotland, white. Every head teacher in Scotland, white. Every chair of a public sector body in Scotland, white. Every High Court judge in Scotland, white. Every prison governor in Scotland, white. Every editor of a news organisation in Scotland, white. Why?
Funny how Sarah Pochin was supposedly sorry, but that video, which I got, was from her tweeting it. Now, people have attacked former SNP leader Humza Yousaf for saying the same thing. Then there's this. When a white MP says TV ads are too black, she's called a racist and told to resign. But when a black actress said the royal family were too white, she was praised by the left and, ironically, made the star of a Christmas TV ad campaign. Racial entitlement has replaced racial equality. Now look, I do think if you speak to most people who are apolitical, right, on the surface, they might say, well, actually, don't they have a point? But the thing is, though, there's a big difference, and that's power, right? If people in positions of power are only white when they're supposed to represent everyone, it doesn't seem crazy to me to say we want to address that. As long as you don't go down the road of liberal tokenism, which is to put people of colour, in these positions just because, when the quality of the candidates is the most important. And yes, that is the disaster of liberal IDPOL. From them, it's minorities regardless of views. Well, if you have a minority yet they push the same views as the political elites, it means nothing, right? It's important to have working class people in positions of power. Because the main ingredients missing from liberal politics is class. but we're seeing a real-time freakout from the right wing, and they're now suddenly concerned with representation. I mean, what? Do they want quotas? I mean, sure. TV adverts do sometimes over-represent people of colour, and, you know, if you're watching Navarre, you saw me sit on there, but basically, I'm a brown guy myself, and sometimes I find it a little bit cringe when you have like one white kid out of an entire class who are like black and brown, right? And you're like, well, it's not really realistic, okay? I think that, or I think to myself, it's either showing a representation of an area with a high amount of minorities, right? They're the two thoughts that go through my head for a split second, and then I just carry on. That's it, right? It's probably just some well-meaning liberal representation. But it's still true that the media is overwhelmingly white, and guess what? That doesn't bother me either. Look, we currently have a climate crisis, homelessness, housing crisis, billionaires buying up our democracy, and the right wing are acting like soy woke snowflakes. Helena, can you explain the phenomenon, which is the rise of inverse liberal identity politics being adopted by the right?
I think it's funny that you call them soy woke snowflakes. I mean, I hate to channel Tim Waltz here of all the people, but it's pretty weird. It's very weird looking at an advert and going, I'm going to scrutinize the ethnicity of the people in my advert. And I'm just like, do you not have better things to do than shout at adverts? And I think most people, even the kind of the wokest of like the liberal identity politics enjoyers, they were never like actually mad when they didn't see the right representation. They just thought maybe we should have more representation. It was broadly just should be more inclusive, right? And unless you're going to have 20 individuals in an advert and scrutinize the population registry so that you know exactly the percentages of each different minority in the country so you can get it spot on so that it looks exactly demographically representative, then what else are you doing here? It doesn't make any sense. And fundamentally, it comes from a huge misunderstanding that the right have about how capitalism works, right? Insofar as they fundamentally, and for a very long time, and probably still do believe, that corporate America and corporate Britain fundamentally are trying to undermine Western values, for example, by forcing diversity on people, when in reality, when you have a multiracial society and you want to sell more products, there are incredibly highly paid advertising executives who are looking at quarterly sales and quarterly figures and going, well, we had this advert that had different representations of all different minority groups and the majority group as well, all in the same advert. And this had these reactions from market research that we did, and the Black and Asian voters had a 3% greater interest in the product when they saw people who looked like them in the advert. So we're just going to have the whole gamut smorgasbord of all the different ethnicities in one advert to try and maximize our revenue. There is only one ideology that companies have, and it is generating revenue for shareholders. That is the only thing that corporate America and corporate Britain has as an ideology or as an ideological position, is wanting to generate revenue for shareholders. And the thing is, when the left looks at this, when the left broadly look at this, we'll go, well, this doesn't actually represent the real interests of black and brown people in the country. It's just a virtue signal to get people's attention. And the right wing go, neo-Marxist academics have infiltrated corporate Britain and they're trying to push diversity on us to try and destroy the West. And I'm just like, one of these is a normal position and one of them isn't. It's like the Americans who got mad about like the Cracker Barrel logo changing. Oh, well, they're trying to go woke. Or the Dylan Mulvaney bit for Bud Light, where people were literally attacking beer cans because the company wanted to maximize their revenue by appealing to demographics who hadn't previously bought their product. It's so fundamentally myopic as a position to hold. And again, fundamentally, like, if you're there scrutinizing the ethnicities of people in adverts, like, why are you holding so much personal investment with what corporations do or don't do in terms of their overall branding? I fundamentally couldn't give a shit. Like, it's just this level of commodity fetishism that I just can't understand. I just cannot understand this level of commodity fetishism, where people hold so much value and weight towards the cultural impact of like what Jaguar are doing with their sports cars. I'm like, fundamentally, I have material concerns that are far more important than whether or not Jaguar is woke or not.
Yeah, and the thing is though, as you can hear, my disdain for virtue signaling liberal idpol, right? It's like it still was a better time though. Like, political correctness was still pretty good. It's a bit annoying sometimes, right? But I like the idea that people were kind of scared to be openly racist, or politicians had to say nice things, right? Now, of course, again, for liberals, that was amazing for them, whereas us were like, yeah, it doesn't really do anything. Much better than what we have today, people just openly racist, right? But it felt like a house of cards, because now there's been a real pushback from the right because of, what, 5 years or 10 years maybe of political correctness? That's about it. It hasn't lasted very long, and now they've just replaced it with their own id poll. And socialists are like, well, we didn't get socialism under liberal id poll, certainly not getting socialism under right-wing culture war, freakery, gammon id poll. And it's like, where's the class analysis? Where's the class analysis, Helena?
Well, exactly. Well, the thing is, of course, is that when these people were trying to imply that there was some kind of woke capture of the corporations, and I was just like, well, Trump got elected, they all turned heel. They all immediately changed all of their positions. They all said, well, we're scrapping DEI because Trump's won the election. I'm like, yeah, because they think that now they're going to be more likely to win people over in terms of buying their product and spending their money so they can increase their quarterly sales figures, because they think that the wind has blown a different direction because of the electoral consequences of what's happening in America. You'll be interested to know that that's not happened to the same level in the UK because we voted in a Labour government. Like, it's really not more complex than that. So, again, for so many purported capitalists, people who purport to support free market capitalist economics, they don't fucking understand it, do they? They haven't got a clue. I genuinely believe that, like, if there was a CEO or anyone who's in a directorial position at a large corporation who was pushing any of their own personal politics over the interests of the shareholders, they would fundamentally be breaking their fiduciary responsibility to their shareholder to maximize those dividends. They would be gotten rid of, right? It's just fundamentally, for a very long time, and to a lesser extent, continuing in the UK, broadly they haven't been removed because there actually is so many black and brown and woke people to market towards, and actually the broader spectrum of the electorate who get really angry at diversity, it's really small, right? They're very loud, but they're very small in terms of that minority. Whereas broadly, there are a lot of people there who are black and brown who just want to see more people like them in advertising, and fundamentally, it's more likely will make them more likely to buy people's products.